Okay, so I've got the lines I want drawn for the walls in this block. I might need a few more later. I've missed this little part, but I've got the main walls drawn there, you can see. And so that's ready now for me to take into Revit. I can always update it later. So I'm going to make sure the file's saved. And then in Revit, the main thing I want to show you is the view that you want to bring it into and how that needs to be set up. So we've got the file that I inserted the satellite image into last week from AutoCAD, remember? So I want to do the same thing basically now in a different view, or in this case a different floor plan. So I've got the ground floor plan, and just like I did with the site plan, I'm going to right click on it, duplicate view, and then duplicate here, it doesn't matter which option really. And then I've got ground floor copy 1, which I'll rename by right clicking as well, and I'll call ground floor with DWG. And now I can insert the new file, sorry. So, I was going too quick there. On the insert tab, link CAD, not insert. So link CAD, and then going to where I've got it saved on the U drive 2015, and there it is, MMOR DCE ground. Now we've actually used the same insertion point, so I could use origin to origin here as an option to insert these, but I'm not. I'm going to leave it on centre to centre and show you how to line it up if you haven't got an origin set up in advance. So aside from choosing the file, the only option I'm going to change is current view only, and then I'll choose open. And I think I've chosen the wrong one, so I'll undo that. And link CAD, did I choose DCE ground? I thought I did. Current view only. Yes, open. Oh yeah, so that's normal. It's brought the XREF in as well. So that's okay. In the with the file, the object selected, I can delete layers, or if I right click, you don't have to right click, so in properties, in the view properties, so to make sure you've got view properties, just press escape to make sure there's nothing selected, and then it'll say floor plan at the top. It should say that most of the time anyway, at first. And then you'll see next to visibility graphics, you've got the edit button, and you can go to imported categories, and there I'm going to turn off the image from the satellite, and I'll turn off the image from the file that I've inserted as well. So if I click OK, then we can see the line work, which is what I want to work with. And so I'm going to decide on one of these lines that I've drawn and make that the base point. So I'm going to start by moving this this file. This is by selecting it, the whole link drawing. I'm just going to move it so that it's roughly centered, and that's why I didn't use the origin, so I could basically move this to where I want it to go. And so if you have a look at those arrows, they're your elevation views, and it's good to make use of their initial position. We'll still need to adjust them a little bit, but I'm going to try and use their position as much as I can. So I'll move this down a little bit more, and so that way at least these elevations, the three at the top, are going to be useful. This bottom one will maybe need to move, but that's okay. Okay, so I've got there a point that I can use, a corner point that I can use and correlate between the different views. Right, so there are lots of really good tools in Revit for setting datum points, but they get a bit complicated, so I'm going to keep it simple and just use reference planes. And so there I'll use a reference plane or ref plane on the architecture tab, and then pick lines, and I'm going to pick the outside edge of my gutter, stretch it across so it's a bit longer, and then the other outside edge of the gutter coming up. Stretch it up. Cancel that so I can select it again, or maybe I'll bring that back a bit actually. Okay, so the intersection of those 2 points is going to be the common point that I'll use in these different drawings to line everything up. So on site with DWG, I didn't establish that before, but I can now using the same technique. I can making sure it's got floor plan in properties, so I know it's the view properties. I've got visibility graphics, edit there, imported categories, and I can simply turn off. Well, notice it hasn't got the image layer. I know that the image is on layer 0 anyway, but I'll show you how to get the changes to come up. It's in the Manage tab. You can go to Manage Links. Oh, no, so what I was saying, so Insert tab, and then you have Manage Links there. Sorry, it's not. You think it'd be managed, but it's an insert option, I suppose. So Manage Links is what you need, and then you have under CAD formats the files that you've inserted from AutoCAD. So NMore DCE site. I'm going to select and then choose Reload, and then OK. And notice it's changed a little bit to bring in the changes I've made. Now back to visibility graphics, edit, and in imported categories there's my image layer. So that's the change I wanted to come across. And now with just the line work I can select this, go to move, snap to the intersection point there on the gutter, and then find the intersection of my 2 reference planes, so that I know the drawings are going to line up across those different views. Okay, so that's the basic concept in Revit, that you're working in different floor plates, so you need different views for each of those, and you bring each drawing into a different floor plate, and then you need to make sure that those floor plates line up across the different views using tools like reference planes. You can easily do that. And that's it. Maybe I'll just very quickly draw a couple of walls in to get you started with that, but I'm sure you'd have a good idea about that anyway. On the Architecture tab with the Wall tool, you've got generic 300mm walls, which will be really good to use as a starting point for these walls that we need. I'm not going to worry about the height yet, I'll worry about that later, so I'll leave it on unconnected. 8000 is okay, and then finish face exterior for the location line. And then I can simply just trace over those walls, is one way. So that's okay. Another option is to go to pick lines, and you can simply pick the edges of your wall, making sure the dashed line goes onto the right side before you pick them. And that can be a bit quicker sometimes, depending on how you've drawn your lines. So it's a really good method. Hopefully you can see once you've done the work in AutoCAD, it's pretty quick then to get it knocked up in Revit from those lines. So you're not drawing it twice really, especially if you use things like pick lines. It doesn't take very long to get that all converted to walls. So I might go through the internal walls next week, but that's plenty to get you started. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Especially if it's something where the measurements are fiddly, and I mean this one's pretty straightforward because it's all rectilinear, everything's vertical or horizontal. But when you've got lots of complicated angles, Revit's not so good at that, and AutoCAD's fantastic.